Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Ryan in Singapore. Welcome to our mindfulness practice. Today's topic is mindful movement, the body in motion, and how you can come home to your body while you're moving. So the idea here is that we don't only have the cushion as our practice space, is that we can practice while we're doing other things in various postures. So when we're sitting, when we're lying, when we're walking, when we're moving around, we can continue this seamless mindfulness throughout our day. And that's kind of one of the purposes of practicing mindful movement. And if you've come to my live events before, you know that most of the time we're sitting, we're in our practice, we're sitting, we're focusing on breath, and we're using that as kind of our anchor to keep us coming back to the present moment. And it's quite useful to have an anchor and have something that's going to bring us back and to help us to see when our minds wander, and to be able to, right before we come back, see what's going on, so that we're observing our bodily sensations, we're observing the state of mind, and we're seeing that constant flux, that impermanent state of mind and the impermanent self that we have. And I think mindfulness of breathing is very helpful in doing that. So, why don't we just practice that all the time? Why bother with mindful movement? Is because the most important thing about this practice is taking it off the cushion, taking it into our daily lives. It's the analogy I always use is the gym. What's the point of going to the gym? Is it because we love being in the gym so much? And I suppose there are some people who do love being in the gym so much, just like there are some people who are, searching for peace and tranquility and hope that that's what meditation is going to give. Maybe that's what the gym is for, is to zone out. I would say, though, for the majority of us, going to the gym is about the results that it produces, not about being in the gym itself. Similarly, how sitting on our cushion, doing our meditation practice, is not about the meditation practice itself, but more about bringing what we acquire in our meditation into daily life. So that's one of the ways that mindful movement really helps where it belongs in our practice is first of all, it is a legitimate another way to practice being present right now in what we're doing. And because we do spend a lot of our lives in movement, we don't spend our lives in a quiet container where we're just here sitting completely still and everything's silent. We do spend a lot of time interacting and moving around. Doing mindful movement, can be very helpful and productive in bringing seamless mindfulness to our daily lives, so that we can, while we're moving around, while we're doing things, maybe quite importantly, in transitions in our lives, we can start to be more mindful instead of getting lost and getting caught up in the transition. So, what kind of transitions do we have? And since it's 5:36 a.m. here, one of the first transitions that I notice is going from sleepiness to coming into wakefulness. This is really the first transition, and what's that like? In fact, can you imagine, can you remember, go back to the beginning of the day, and can you remember the moment you woke up? And can you remember the first few movements that you made? And if you can't, there's probably an aspect of not being mindful in that moment. So this is something that we can continue to cultivate as we're practicing mindful movement. So that's kind of the first transition, right? Waking up and then getting out of bed. So the posture changes, right? We move from lying to sitting. Then our feet touch the floor. We move from sitting to standing. Then we move from standing to walking. So you see, these transitions are constantly happening, but most of the time we aren't even noticing what's going on. And as those transitions happen, there are things that are going on inside of your body, right? I mean, gravity affects us quite differently from lying down to sitting up to standing. It starts to change the effort that our body has to put out. Standing to walking, our heart rate is going to change. Our rate of breathing is going to change. So there's lots of things that are going on that we can be mindful of. And if we're able to keep this seamless mindfulness throughout everything that we do, this again gives us access to that grounded state, so that when something difficult is happening, we are already going to be aware of the changes in our bodies. And in fact, the change from, I mean, here's our consciousness, right? Our consciousness disappears, or we become unconscious from the time we're lying down and we go into sleep, right? And then the next part that we're conscious is that we're lying down and we're waking up. And, those two times, our consciousness is quite different as we're falling asleep and as we wake up. Even though that we're not really perceiving that time passing, because we're exhausted in falling asleep, and maybe we're exhausted when we're waking up too, but it's still a different version of me that's waking up. And so, there's a good chance that my mood is different. There's a very good chance that my energy level is different. And even if it's not, like, as we start getting up, as we start moving around, we'll notice that everything is in that constant flux. And so mindful movement and bringing intentional attention to what's going on in each moment of our day is going to give us that information. And that information is going to help us to modify what's going on in our day, so that we don't have to robotically go through all of the things that we said we're going to go through, but instead have a little bit more wisdom about what it is that's going on, and maybe alter things based on the version of you that's showing up. Maybe it's a more energetic you, and you're like, hey, maybe instead of doing this one task that I plan to do today, maybe I can do two tasks. Maybe I've got more that I have in my capacity, or maybe I'm less energetic today. I didn't get enough sleep last night. I went to bed later, and now I'm awake, and I'm not able to. I'm going to be grumpier than I thought I would be. This difficult interaction I plan to have with my family member, maybe it's better that I don't have it today. Maybe it's better that I have it at another time. And so there is wisdom that comes with this kind of seamless awareness, and using mindful movement can be something that we can do to help promote that seamless awareness. So, I'm looking at the chat. I don't know about Insight Timer on desktop, except that I can tell you that I'm using it right now to broadcast. So I should be. They're changing it a lot. I don't know what's going on with it seems like the software that loads into my browser is always different. So mindful movement has this. It's this kind of moving with a simple knowing without turning movement into a performance project. And so that kind of leads me into my next point here, is that sometimes, so yoga is kind of one of the original mindful movements. And I want to say that yoga does tend to these days feel like a performance project. That I go to a particular place with a bunch of other people, hopefully who haven't set up their cameras to take photos of themselves. That's exactly what I'm talking about. is this kind of, it's turned into a performance project. And in fact, I think, Gene, I saw that you tried my mindful, it was like my lying mindful yoga thing that I have on Insight Timer, my recording. And it's one that I think my yoga tracks probably have the least traction on Insight Timer, which to me is interesting because I think there's a lot to come. There's a lot out of those that you really, if you haven't done mindful movement, these tracks are, especially the lying one, is really set up for anybody to do. It is not one that requires any prior yoga experience, And so let's break that word down. Okay, yoga means to yoke, right? So to yoke, a yoke is this big wooden thing that you put on the neck of oxen, and it's a way for the person who's plowing the field to control the oxen, right? So it's this old word that I suppose we don't use very much anymore because we don't typically use oxen to plow fields any longer. But the idea is that one ox isn't strong enough to pull the plow through the mud, so you have two. And so how do you keep them moving in the same direction is you this big wooden block that you put around them, right? And it keeps each of the oxen moving together. So you go, well, wait a minute, why does yoga mean to yoke? Like, what does this have to do with yoga? And the word is, the key word here is union, right? You're unifying these two things together so that they're moving together, so they're working together instead of potentially working against each other, or maybe even not being aware that each other are there. When the oxen are yoked, it's impossible for them to not know about the existence of the other, that they are moving in the same direction. And so this is kind of the idea here, is that yoga is the union of body and mind, right? So that we are using our bodies to help orient our minds in the present moment so that we're on the same page, right? My mind loves to time travel into the future and back into the past, to think, to worry about what's going to happen next, or to reminisce, or to recall the events, or to try to relive my past in a different way, right? Mindfulness brings us into the present moment. And we can use our body as this anchor into the present moment. So it's not about performance in any way. It isn't about stretching or flexibility either, right? I mean, this is the other thing people can get caught up on, is that yoga or mindful movement means that I'm doing something and I'm trying to achieve some physical goal out of it, right? And this isn't what it's about. There isn't a right way to do it. It's using sensations in the body. It's moving around so that you can notice that the body is in different postures. And that's really all there is to it. And that's what our practice will be today. So we'll be doing some simple movements with this idea of, well, what happens when we do this? What happens inside the body? Can I start to notice like minor changes? Because what we're going to do today, I'm not going to be walking around. I'm not going to be leaving my cushion. We're going to do it all from right here. Okay? And with that intention that we can begin to bring it into everything else that we're doing, like walking, right? What is walking like? Walking meditation is a little hard for me to do on Insight Timer because I usually have I don't have a robot that like can follow me around while I'm broadcasting. I don't have a camera that automatically moves around. But I think you can understand that when I'm walking, my sensations are going to be different from when I'm sitting or when I'm standing or when I'm lying, and that I can notice different things. And so this is one really common anchor. So one of the anchors we use here sitting on the cushion is the feeling of the cushion against the buttocks. One of the anchors that we can really use when we're doing mindful walking is the soles of the feet. So contact points is one excellent way of grounding. So Okay, posture is one thing that we can notice while we're moving. And so what is the shape of the body? What is am I upright? Am I slumped down? Am I bracing? Am I relaxed? What's the body posture feel like? Another one is contact points. So feet on the ground, hands touching, clothing on the skin, air on the face. So noticing that. If the mind looks busy, we can come back to the contact points. They are stable, they're reliable, and it's this interface that we have with the external world. And because of Earth's gravity, these contact points are always existing as long as we're here on planet Earth. So, I mean, even if you're in the water, right? Like then you're contacted all around by water if you're floating. So, sensation is constantly changing. Our bodies are like a flowing river. They're not a statue. Even when we're sitting in meditation, there's a constant flux that's going on. So we can notice all of these changes as weight is transferring while we're moving from one foot to another. We're noticing the changing of muscles flexing and relaxing. We're noticing the changes in temperature as we move. And so that's another thing we're going to focus on today. So notice how the body temperature changes. Movement. So one of the other nice things about movement compared to sitting practice is that the movements are louder, right? That we can feel the movement more readily because we're actively doing something with the body. And sometimes when we're sitting and focusing in meditation, it can be hard to focus because it feels like whatever's happening is there's not much action. The only movement I'm getting is movement of my belly as I'm breathing. And so that can be hard to tune into. And if I'm tuning into the sensation at the cushion, you'll notice that pressure is relatively constant. And so movement can be a way for someone who feels like this still meditation is difficult. It gives you another door through which to access meditation and mindfulness practice. So just having a quick look through my notes before we get started here. So concrete examples of where we can use mindful movement. Very simple stuff. Walking to the bathroom, going to make tea or coffee, opening a door, waiting for the elevator, brushing our teeth, washing our hands, getting into bed. So these are all ways for us to be mindful, and that we can be intentionally mindful throughout our day. We can choose one of those things to come back to. And so it would be amazing if we could be seamlessly mindful throughout every single moment of the day. But I'm not a monastic. I don't live in a monastery. I live in the real world, and it can be very hard to stay mindful at every single moment of the day. So the goal here isn't to be mindful through every moment throughout the day. It is this learning how to return when our minds start to get distracted, so that we can, over time, keep building up this ability to stay present. So Angie says, now I'm getting older. I've recently started doing about 5 minutes of 5 minutes of mindful, gentle stretching and warming up my joints before I'm out of bed. Sat on the edge and started standing. Feels like being kind to my body and prepping. And so this is an excellent way to start to be present in your day. And so you can definitely do this to kind of use that as that grounding stone to get the day started out right. Thanks, Angie, for sharing. All right, let's go ahead and get into our practice. So get comfortable wherever you are. Get comfortable wherever you are. So you can be sitting, you can be standing. Unfortunately, lying down it's going to be difficult to follow the instructions today if you're lying down. So I would encourage you to be sitting or standing potentially. You can close your eyes if you want, but you don't have to. So as we get started here, let me invite you to bring your attention to the sensation of your body sitting here right now or standing here right now. Notice the contact points. If you're sitting, noticing what the chair or the cushion feels like against your buttocks. Notice the weight of your body. Gravity is pulling down. The cushion or the chair is pushing back. Or maybe you're standing. The soles of your feet are what's in contact. Can you kind of map the pressure on either the soles of the feet or on the buttocks? You'll notice that it's not exactly the same. For me, sitting on this cushion, what I'm noticing is that near the edge of the cushion, kind of where my buttocks become my thighs, is where I'm feeling the highest amount of pressure. And it's on both the left and the right side. So there are two spots that seem to share the highest pressure. Now I can feel my tailbone is also in contact with the cushion, or near the tailbone, I should say. And then I can feel it taper off. And then where it's tapering off, I can feel the contact with my clothing. So my clothing against my skin. And so now let's start to notice the natural motion of the body. So the body is moving with the breath. So can you feel where the body is moving? Can you feel the breath going in and out? Is it possible to notice the heart beating? Is it possible to notice what is the temperature of the body? So just bookmarking what the body is like right now, taking note of the pace of the breath, pace of the heart, the temperature, quality of the breath. Quality of the mind state. And whenever you feel ready, let's begin to just move our shoulders a little bit. So when you're ready, perhaps on an inhale, bringing the shoulders up towards the ears. So squeezing the shoulders. Again, this is not a performance project. You don't need to strain yourself or injure yourself by trying too hard. So just squeezing the shoulders up towards the ears and just feeling, what does this new posture feel like? What do the muscles in the neck, muscles in the shoulders, what do the muscles in the arms feel like? And then maybe on the next exhale, just slowly letting the shoulders come down and relax a bit. See if you can drop the shoulders farther away from the ears. So kind of intentionally pushing the shoulders down. And then on your next exhale, bringing the shoulders back up. Notice what's happening to the breathing. Relaxing now the shoulders back down. Let's see if we can try to squeeze our shoulders towards the front. So it's kind of like flexing the chest muscles as we try to bring the shoulders forwards. And now bringing the shoulder blades together behind the back. So expanding the chest. Again, being careful, like noticing any small tension that might be showing up in the neck. Again, this isn't, nobody else is around to be doing this with you, There's nobody to perform for except for yourself. So now relaxing back to neutral. And so let's bring these together in some shoulder rolls. So let's bring the shoulders up towards the ears. We're going to go forward. So now squeezing together in front of the chest, down away from the ears, squeezing the shoulder blades up towards the ears. Forward, down, back, up. Keep going. Forward, down, back, up. And the whole time the mind is in the shoulders, in the trapezius muscles, noticing how things are changing as we do this. Forward, down, back, up. One more. Forward, down, back, up. Okay, holding here up for a moment. And now reversing. Back, down, forward, up, back, down, forward, up. One more. Back, down, forward, up. Now holding up here for a moment, squeezing the shoulders towards the ears, and then on the next exhale, relaxing. So now take note. Feel the breath. Is anything different about the breath? About the heart rate? About the temperature? about the mind state. So just noticing. Noticing these small transitions. And so now we're going to be moving the head and just noticing what's going on as we move the head. So I don't know if you're seeing me in mirror image or not, but I'm going to turn my head to the right. So first, before anything, noticing what the head feels like in this front-looking position. And now I'm going to turn my head gently to the right. My chin towards my right shoulder. Again, not straining, no need to injure yourself here. What you can potentially injure yourself by trying too hard. Just noticing what it feels like to be turning the head towards the right shoulder. And exploring as well. Noticing if it feels uncomfortable and not pushing through it, but also noticing if it feels easy. One thing we can do here is just kind of explore. Hey, maybe I can turn my head a little bit farther than I thought. And as it sits here, as my head is to the right, my muscles, my 5:50 a.m. or muscles or 6 a.m. muscles are opening up. I'm able to turn my head a little bit more as I breathe. So now just gently letting the head come back to center. Now turning the head to the left, bringing the chin towards the left shoulder. And the first thing I notice is it doesn't go as far this way. And I get a little bit of this strange pain in my head. Right over, it's like over my right eye. There's this funny sensation. And now it's gone. My head is able to turn a little more. And a little more. And I'm still aware of my breath. And a little more. And now I'm going to come back to center. Take one full breath here. And then I'm going to bring my chin towards my chest. So feeling the stretch in the back of the neck. In fact, that stretch now, I can feel it all the way down my back. So some active engagement of my muscles here to hold my head down. And just feeling the flux. The strong sensation in my mid-back is starting to subside. My breath seems shallower. I can feel it's harder to breathe with my trachea a bit collapsed, with it being pinched a bit in this position. And now I'm going to bring my head back up, back to neutral. Take one full breath here. and then chin towards the ceiling. So compressing the back of the neck, stretching the front of the neck. The first thing I notice is the lighting. The light from my ceiling, everything seems brighter even with my eyes closed. You can really feel the stretching of the skin on the front. Breathing is different. It's hard to talk. And now I'm going to bring my head back to neutral. It's like a slight dizziness here in a moment. That went away almost completely. Like within a second, it's gone. So now let's just kind of alternate gently from right shoulder to left. So right shoulder, left shoulder, right shoulder, back to center, back to left shoulder. And now I've got some feeling in the shoulder blade, my left shoulder blade. There's kind of like a tightness in one of the muscles as I'm doing this. So really, you can notice all these little nuances that are really, if you're not doing this practice, you're just going to quite potentially escape you. It's like kind of this familiarity, this learning about my body, this home that I'm in all the time. And the more I do practices like this, the more familiar I get with this physical vehicle that I'm in. And then letting the head come back to neutral. And now just take a few moments here to notice the state of the body, pace of the breath, heart rate if you can, temperature may have increased slightly. The state of the mind. And I'll close our practice with 3 rings of the bell. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for practicing with me today. How'd it go? And to my surprise, this practice was quite pleasant for me. I really enjoyed it. I think it's a change, you know. Thanks, Liz and Cynthia, before getting up. Yeah, welcome, my Kiwi buddies. You know, it's nice to have people from New Zealand here. And you know what? And here this reaction, so tense neck, head, and shoulders unbalanced with like a crying face. My question to you is, can you delete the crying face? You know, can you just be okay with that's how my neck and shoulders are right now? And just go, this is what it is. You know, it doesn't mean that you can't go have a massage later. Doesn't mean that you can't do something active about it, but, instead of being upset about it, just going, this is what it is, and this is what it is, can help let it go. Thanks. Yeah, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Yeah, you know what, and that I like. I'll tell you, I know this very well because this is my wife is always very tense, and it's always showing up. In fact, she's been using like a towel under her neck to change the way she sleeps to try to make it better, and it's a tough thing. I mean, for her, that's how her stress manifests. It's why I know she wants to do more yoga, right? As we talk about mindful movement and yoga today, for her that really helps to manage that. And I don't think it's just a physical thing, right? I think a lot of times that this is there not just from like typing on a keyboard all day, but also for a lot of us, that's where our stress manifests. Had tension in the shoulder blades, and it's gone now. Thanks, Angie, for that feedback. All right. Well, it has been lovely, and it's great. As I look down at the faces, I see more familiar faces, and I see more unfamiliar faces too. So it's great to have you here today. If it's your first time here, I'll just post up my 9 Attitudes course card. I'll be back in 47 and a half hours. Is that right? No, 47 hours and 15 minutes. And the topic then is going to be the breath as a home base. So we did today about mindful movement and the body in motion. Last time we talked about the body in general. So today's the body and movement, and then next time we focus down deep on the breath. Why is the breath a good object? Why do we use it? How can it be useful in daily life? So mindful movement, we move all the time in daily life. As you can see, if we really pay attention, just like we did today, if we really pay attention to what's going on, we can see all of these little nuances, and we can watch how our physical movement starts to change our bodies and our minds. And so that can help to be a grounding point for us to be aware of. And Jean says, I noticed that as I moved, I was controlling my breath as opposed to breathing naturally. And that's interesting too. And me too. I synchronized my breath with my movements. So that's, I guess that's just, I'm used to doing that when I'm doing mindful movement practice. But, see if you can notice your breath as you're walking, as you're transitioning from sitting, as you're lying. See if your breath can become available to you. And that's what we'll talk about next time a bit more. I think that's because you've been practicing with me for so long, Jean. Just used to that synchronization. All right. Lovely as always. And I'll see you back here in 47 hours and 15 minutes. Let's close practice the way we do with some well wishes to ourselves and to everybody else. May I be happy and peaceful. May everybody here watching, listening today, wherever you are, I wish you all happiness and peace. May all of our human relatives, every human being on this planet that we have so much in common with, even we may not see those commonalities. May all humans, everyone everywhere, be happy and peaceful. Thanks, Tea Lady Nat. Thanks, everybody, for being here, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.